Svakadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gauranga Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatrubhishya Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patindanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. So everybody can understand?
Which is one person probably translating to, so if you hear me speaking, I'll try to be silent, but I will translate.
Okay. Okay, so everybody else is okay? English? Yeah. So today is our second part of the seminar, and it's based on the ISKCON motto, books are the basis. So yesterday, anybody would like to share what we covered, the different topics that we covered? Yesterday.
Screen is very bad. Screen is very bad. It's like watching on screen too long is very bad.
They're just the headlines, if you remember that.
Limiting screen time.
Yes.
Morning routine for kids development. The whole things that love to the Krishna.
Not pushing too much.
Okay.
Chanting Japa together?
Yes.
Pushing, no?
Maybe lights.
There you go, little.
Maybe lights too much.
The youngest Japa person here. What else? What are some of the other topics?
Asatsanga, try to avoid asatsanga
Yes.
for people.
Very good. Good association. What else?
Homemade food.
Oh, prashadam. Yeah.
Meat cooking, whereas meat cooking in not fit kitchen.
Okay.
Good atmosphere at home and babies for children.
Yeah. Deity worship. Yes. And yes. Okay. I think and we talked about probably also the 5 R's. The reading, writing, arithmetic, rote and drama, the 5 things we should teach our children. Okay, so today we will be talking about the academic side, the academic curriculum. Okay. So I'm going to begin with reading these 3 quotes by Srila Prabhupada. It's about how much Prabhupada stressed the fact that children should study his books, in particular Srimad Bhagavatam. So everybody knows as adults we should read Prabhupada's books, right? But Prabhupada emphasized it even for children. Okay? And he had a great desire to that children should read his books. Actually, he said that education should begin with teaching our children English and Sanskrit, just so they could read his books. Okay. And he actually did that in the school Dallas, and we'll hear about that. Our students specifically, they should take care of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We have therefore prescribed in our school Dallas. And from the very beginning, if they begin education with Bhagavad Gita and then come to Srimad Bhagavatam and read the whole literature, they will be more than MA, PhD. Everybody got that? If children read Srimad Bhagavatam right from the beginning, he's saying that they'll be more than MA, PhD. Why? Because his books are MA, PhD. They are very, very books of high quality, high caliber, very Even, when you read the Gita, most people don't understand it. They need help, right? And what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even astronomy, astrology, politics, sociology, atomic theory, everything is there. Therefore, if you study Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, then you get all knowledge completely. So in other words, he's saying that Srimad Bhagavatam covers every subject matter in the world. In other words, it covers all these, the ones that he's mentioned, plus everything else. In other words, it covers all subject matters. Throughout the whole world, whatever knowledge is there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If one simply reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, his education is topmost. If one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he is well versed in every subject matter. So, in other words, if you give them, our children, a foundation in Srimad Bhagavatam, then later on when they have to pick up, outside books, then they would have already gotten a Vedic perspective on all subject matters before they took on mundane books, which is very important. We don't realize how important that is, right? Because especially things like science and anthropology, origin of man, and psychology, all these things. If we understand it from the Bhagavatam point of view, from the Vedic point of view, then when the children hear from outside sources, they are not going to be misled into atheistic thinking, materialistic thinking, right? It matters. They have to study those books because they have to go to, at some point they're exposed to them, even when you're homeschooling them, right? Some amount of curriculum, outside curriculum, you may have to pursue. Of course, my recommendation yesterday that I felt through my own experience is that we should try to delay teaching other subjects as far as possible so that they can learn from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Prabhupada's books early on. Okay. Last one. Throughout the whole world, whatever knowledge is there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If one simply reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, his education is topmost. If one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he is well versed in every subject matter. Okay. So, I think I already read that, yeah. So, and this is something that I personally experienced in my own life with my children, is that I was teaching them from Srimad Bhagavatam, and within a span of 6 years, I noticed that, when they went to college after 6 years, because they went to college early, very early, they're like 12, 13 years old, then they had to take subjects, that they had never studied before, right? Never studied before, like history, anthropology, and then sociology, and just for every subject they had to take. They were studying for the first time. English literature also they were studying for the first time. But they had no problem. They were able to grasp and do well in those subjects. Because then I had a direct experience that actually Srimad Bhagavatam does give a very good understanding of all subjects. Okay, so it is a fact. It's a fact. And in fact, a little story of when my oldest son went to college, then the first class that he took was an English composition class. Okay. Now they have an entrance test, to decide which level you can go to. Okay, especially for a young child, he was very young, so they wanted to get there's a test that you can take, and at the university level, where they test where you really stand. And he scored in his 90s in that test due to Srimad Bhagavatam, because like Prabhupada is saying, it's more than MA PhD. And so he was allowed to take one of those classes, the English class. But it so happened that the basic level class was full. No, I don't know what you have at the basic level, university level. For us, we call it 101. Is that what you call it here also? Like the basic, you don't know? Okay, so that was full. Then, and the reason why he went to college early is not because I desired. I had no idea how these things happen. But we were running a restaurant, Govinda's restaurant, and there was a teacher who would come and eat over there. And so he mentioned when he saw both of my children speaking, he thought they had a very good command over English, the language. And he says, why don't you let him get a class at the university? And it was not a very unknown notion because there's a system over there where high school children are allowed to take one class at the university level. So it was something that was done, except they were younger. They were quite young, That's the only, but this was not a very foreign idea. And so that's how it happened. That's why I even thought about it. I had no such idea to push them into studying at the university level early or to graduate early. I was not very ambitious in terms of trying to push them or anything. But Krishna had planned it that way. And frankly, I was very nervous, and my husband was also very nervous about it, thinking, how is that going to work? But he kept saying, no, try one class, just one class. And so, like I said, all the entry-level classes were full. Then he said, let him try the honors class. And then the honors class was also full. I mentioned about this in the book. And that was also full. The first level honors class was also full. Then he said, okay, try the second level honors class. And they had a couple seats left. So he went there. And it was very kind of scary, but when he walked in on the first day, the teacher gave the syllabus, and there was Shakespeare classical works, Shakespeare's Hamlet and other Mexican writers, and Odyssey and all that, and Homer's Odyssey, and many other classical literatures. And he had never read those books before. Our schooling was based on Prabhupada's books, Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's not like he had read Shakespeare. And obviously he didn't know what to expect, but as he started reading Shakespeare's Hamlet and other books, he realized that actually a lot of the concepts that Shakespeare talks about is very similar to what our Shastras, our Shastras said, And there were references to reincarnation and other topics like that. So it wasn't all that foreign. And what was amazing is that when he got his first assignment, the teacher said, she was very pleasantly surprised, and she said, while the other kids were trying to get the storyline, the storyline means just narrating the story, this happened and this happened. This kid was going very deep into it and trying to analyze what was Shakespeare's motive or how he was thinking. And she was really happy. And she gave him a straight A, afterwards, So this is, we were like surprised. I mean, this is all new to us. This is the first time we were actually, we saw something happening, because when you're homeschooling, it's not like every week you have a test. Right? So it was a pleasant surprise for us, and we said, okay. And this was all due to studying Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay. Then that same semester, because their philosophy was strong due to the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, they also took a philosophy class. He also took a philosophy class. And he did well. And that was again Western philosophy. Medieval philosophy. It wasn't something that we had read before. But he had no problem, with that either. But of course, and then he, so anyway, that first semester, these were the two classes he took. And so again, just trying to tell you that, and they're just average children. It's not like they've got super IQ and all that. Sometimes you do hear of precocious children. Children who are just like, at the age of 10, they can pass through university or something. But mostly they have a special, intelligence which allows them, but mostly they excel in areas like math, sciences or that kind of thing. Rarely you're going to find somebody doing like this in literature classes. Okay, so it says something. So it wasn't a case where he got a special IQ. It was simply a case of reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and like I mentioned yesterday, and the critical and thinking skills that a child gets trained with when you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Because none of these stories are just simple stories. They go deep, right? You have to reason it, you have to think about it. One thing comes out of another thing and another thing, right? And it leads to many things. That's why it's very difficult to make a curriculum from Srimad Bhagavatam. Because one verse can make a whole curriculum. And how do you cover 18,000 verses? It's very difficult. So anyway, so this is the training, this is the result of reading Prabhupada's books, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. The reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is so nice for children is because it's in the form of stories. Okay, all the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is within Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's absolutely no loss in focusing on Srimad Bhagavatam. So everything is there. And so in other words, reading Srimad Bhagavatam is deeper and more sophisticated than the basic level courses at the university. Okay. Much more. So when Srila Prabhupada says that reading his books makes you more than MA PhD, it does make you more than MA PhD, okay? Academically. It is something that happens, without so much of effort. It's so enjoyable also. Right? It's so enjoyable. So, when he was taking philosophy classes, as you know, philosophy classes are very, Mayavadi. They teach Mayavadi philosophy. It's not theistic at all. And so when they get this training from Srimad Bhagavatam, when they have to hear all that, the conviction is there, on the theistic perspective that Srila Prabhupada gives us from Srimad Bhagavatam. And they will hear, they will do well. There's also a lot of motivation. I don't know what it is, but when you study Srimad Bhagavatam for children, it creates a motivation for study, for wanting to do well, even in the mundane field. Because most people they wonder that what happens if you raise a child just on Srila Prabhupada's books of Srimad Bhagavatam? Are they going to come out to be just pujaris or preachers? Nothing wrong with that. I think it's exalted. But people who are really worried, they want their children to go the other way, they say, well, is this a type of education that's going to, manufacture such kind of kids? What about the worldly responsibilities? What about when they have to take a job? Because most kids would want to take a job and raise a family. Does it train you for that? But in my case and in the case of many others, an education curriculum based on Srimad Bhagavatam and of course some math does not discourage a person or restrict any child from any kind of education, including if you want to become an engineer or whatever, whatever you want to become. Because Srimad Bhagavatam, besides helping, the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam obviously is to become a pure devotee, right? To advance spiritually and go back to Godhead, right? That's the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. But what I'm trying to say, it doesn't, even in areas which are non-devotional, one can excel and does also well in other areas as well. In other words, it gives an all-round education. Okay, let's go to the next one. spiritual benefits from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And really this was, like I mentioned yesterday, this was the whole purpose of the biggest concern and the whole motivation why Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Gurukulas in ISKCON, is because he wanted to give children to have good character. He wanted to give good character education. Otherwise, he said you can give everything else, but it's like decorations on a dead body. Right? If one doesn't have good character, you know how we get so, you see a scholar and he's puffed up, you just like, the effect of his scholarship is not there, right? So he wanted to make gentlemen out of these people, right? And that is why and that's what's lacking in the world today, right? The country may have a lot of money and a lot of education, like you see that in America, but that does not guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee good character or good, being a gentleman, like Prabhupada said. But Vedic education, he said, was different, right? Because it gives these qualities. So anyway, so that's what Srila Prabhupada emphasized. For example, he said education today means eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's what it teaches you, how to go and, eat well, so all this. But these things, Prabhupada said, it comes natural. One doesn't need to be educated or trained to do these 4 things. It's natural. Nobody needs training to eat. Like even a small baby, you give him a cookie, he's going to put it straight in his mouth. He doesn't put it anywhere else. He knows, because that tendency is innate in us. Am I going too fast? Should I go slow? It's okay today. Okay. So, and then the same thing with defending and, all this sleeping. You don't need training for sleeping, right? So, but this is what these schools are now today. Mainly they're concerned with these 4 things. Right? Just the sleep industry is so big. I don't know about here in America. It's like a whole science now, right? How they sleep, what kind of mattress to sleep on. So these things are emphasized, right? These things are glorified today. But the basic system is like you minimize these things, right? What does a person need? Just 6-foot bed or something, right? So that's the whole thing. And it used to be that spiritualists were respected. The lesser you had and you wanted, the more glorified you were. But now it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. In Christianity, if the pastor is rich, they think he's more God conscious. You see, God gave him everything, right? And if you don't have, that means you've not been favored by God. It's just the whole thinking has changed. Right? So it's dharma, artha, kama, moksha, kind of philosophy, right? But you can see that Srimad Bhagavatam it kicks out all sub-religious principles. The 4 necessities, which today is modern religion, just catering for economic development and all that. So it kicks out all that, and it goes on a very high platform. It goes beyond that. It helps us to understand what pleases the Lord and what we need to do in order to please Him and go out of this and get out of this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives that type of education to children through good role models. I mentioned that a little bit yesterday. These children are associating with great souls, and because these great souls are absolute personalities, when they read about them, their character will rub on them. They will rub on them. Unlike characters that you get, mundane characters that you get. Right? These are spiritual characters. Right? And when the character rubs on them, then as they get older, they are able to appreciate the instructions very, very deeply. Right? And I'll give you just a couple examples of how deep these stories go in the hearts of the children and how much they are affected by these stories, And these are not, like I said, stories. They are, they go very, very deep. For example, Parikshit Maharaj's humility. When he was cursed to die in 7 days, he could have easily, reversed the curse. He could have easily reversed the curse, but he didn't do it. Why? Because he saw it in the plan of the Lord for him. I mean, it's quite humiliating to be cursed by a little boy. He was such a big king, right? Such a powerful king. Imagine being emperor of the entire planet and being cursed by a little boy. I mean, it's just so insulting. But he didn't see it like that. He went along with it. In fact, he's worried about Shamit Rishi, whether he offended him. He felt like he should be punished for such a small thing, like garlanding him with a dead snake. It's not a big crime. And he felt totally responsible, and he felt like he should be punished. Krishna should give him a reaction immediately. How many times do we feel like that, right? If somebody doesn't, then the first thing is how to save ourselves or how to retaliate, right? Especially something, if one is very powerful and strong, then you feel even more insulted, right? But his mood was that, no, I wonder what he's feeling. And he's going to die in 7 days. He's not worried about his own emotions, his own fear, but he's worried about somebody else's emotions. So that kind of mood, the humility, all this, it's all in Prabhupada's purpose. So I'll be telling you how to read and the methodology of how to, because children, they have only so much, capacity. So Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of taught in layers. So you give them one layer. You don't have to give all layers all at once, right? You give them one layer and then goes deeper, another layer, like that. And it's also taught by contrast. So something, somebody is depicted as being a demon, well then there is a devotee also there. So it's not demonizing everybody, much as we may think, people, somebody who doesn't know what a philosophy is, you've got this kind of demons and things like that. No, it's not like that. It's taught by contrast. So there's a demon in the picture, but then there's a great devotee there. And how does he handle that demon, or the bad forces, or the bad virtues, right? So these things are there, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So, Parikshit Maharaj's humility, and in the same story, we see not only how he dealt as a king, but we also see how he dealt as a king, how he dealt with Kali, right? How he punished him. Even though he's so humble, but he's not a coward, right? So it's giving the good qualities of a leader, of how he dealt and was willing to punish Kali, but also to being very just king and being compassionate by giving him a place. So we see all these qualities in a good leader. You can see, talking about somebody asked a question yesterday about can our children become good leaders? Well, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have so many wonderful leaders and the qualities that they possess. And if you notice each one, the main quality that they have is they are pure devotees. They are such, that is number one. They are called Raj Rishis, right? Which means above and all, they are great devotees of the Lord. And on that strength, they were ruling. So what message it gives to our children is that one has to be a devotee. One sannyasi said that, talking about management, some of you may be managing over here, he says, if you do good sadhana, which means basically you're clean, right? You try to be clean and you're a good devotee. If you do good sadhana, then management is at your fingertips. That's number one quality for a good leader. And that's not surprising. Throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that, right? All these great kings, the reason why they were successful It's because they took shelter of Krishna. Right? So again, we see that in the quality of Parikshit Maharaj. Then the quality of gratefulness. Very important to teach our children how to be grateful, right? Very important, because that's the last thing they want to do. You sacrifice so much, but then they're off. They are on their own. Then forget, right? So a lot of we want to give our love to our children, but also we hope that in the end they're going to kind of help us in our old age, right? Or do something like that. We don't expect that, but I mean we may expect that, right? But at least you hope at some point this will happen, right? So how to teach these qualities? And take care of others as well, and have great respect for older people or senior devotees or even for devotees per se. So anyway, there's the story of Dhruva Maharaj. We see that quality of gratefulness in Dhruva. He, as you know, that everybody knows the story of Dhruva. Everybody, yeah. So we see that Dhruva was obviously insulted by his stepmother, and the king didn't help either, and he went crying to his father. He wanted to sit on the lap of his father, and his father didn't pick him up like he picked up Uttama, the son of the other queen, his favorite queen. He didn't pick up Dhruva. So Dhruva was very shocked, very disappointed, because his own father did not emotionally support him, right? Even after his stepmother insulted him very badly, right? He could have spoken up. He should have spoken up as a king, right? And told her that she shouldn't do like that. But he just ignored her. I ignored him, and he didn't do anything. So Dhruva was devastated, and he went to his mother. And his mother Suniti was a great Vaishnavi, simple woman, and she said she directed him towards Krishna. She says, "I cannot help you because I happen to be a very unfortunate queen of your father. He was neglected me. Basically, he had neglected her, and she wasn't even living in the palace. So, but if you go to Krishna, Krishna is like millions of mothers. So, such a glorious mother, where she directed her child to Krishna. She could have easily, the first reaction one would expect is that you're going to get upset and you're going to say bad things for your co-wife or for the king. But she didn't do that. Instead, she says, your stepmother is right. You should go and please the Lord. Because she of course said it in a bad intention. She said, you go and please the Lord, and in your next life you can take birth in my womb, then you can become king. Pretty mean, right? So she said, I think she's right. You won't get anything out of envy and hatred towards anybody. Because that envy and hatred will come to you if you do that. Anyway, so she gives him the right advice, and Dhruva was so affected by it that he walks out of the home. And for 6 months he does austerities and sees the Lord face to face. Amazing success, right? So, and then of course he meets Narad Muni as he was going towards Madhuvan forest, and Narad Muni first tested him and tried to send him back, but then when he passed the test, he was determined. Then he gave him a process of devotional service, how to do Ashtanga Yoga, and this way achieve his goal. And he did. And he comes back, he returns home after 6 months, having achieved, because the Lord awarded him a kingdom greater than his grandfather Brahma. And so he comes back and he gets to rule. So he becomes king for 36,000 years. Krishna ordered him, he said, you have to become king, even though he had lost all desire for material things. But yet, ordered him to become king. And after 36,000 years, when the airplane came to take him back to Godhead, a beautiful airplane, decorated from Vaikuntha to take him back, he would not go on the plane. Why?
Mother.
Yeah. He said, what about my mother? And the reason was because his mother was the one who set him on the path. She was Pad Padaksha Guru. His actual Guru was Narad Muni, right? a guru who led him on the right path. And then Nanda pointed out, see, she's already up there. So in other words, what Prabhupada writes in the pulpit is that this quality of gratefulness, even after 36,000 years, he did not forget his mother. And this was like a few minutes conversation between him and his mother, but it was set his path. He knew that he achieved what he achieved because of her proper advice. So this is called the quality of gratefulness. Okay? So children, when they read these stories, these qualities, they go very deep and they actually become like that. And if you were to explain to them this quality of gratefulness, it's not going to work. It goes here and then it comes off, right? It doesn't work, right? But the Shastras have a way of speaking, very, very deep, and they have a way of affecting the hearts of the children in a way and so it's not just mere moral stories. Srimad Bhagavatam is not just value education. We like to make it like that for children. When children have the capacity to study, deeply, just like adults. Okay. In other words, they are not just moral stories, but they are ethical stories, which means that there may be two things that are equally similar and look right. But then you have to choose one out of the two. Okay. And that's a lot deeper than just moral stories. Okay? Moral stories means, what does it mean? You just need to know what's good and what's bad. You need some determination. And that's, moral stories. Okay? But ethical stories means you have to judge it according to the higher principles of dharma. The higher principles of dharma. So Srimad Bhagavatam takes of dharma and the ultimate dharma, not the dharma, swadharma, how we behave towards our elders, our mother and father, but even beyond, and that is how do we please Krishna, Sanatana Dharma. So Srimad Bhagavatam takes us to, to decisions which are pleasing to Krishna. Like Arjuna was faced in a dilemma, whether he should, whether he should kill his worshipful superiors. It was big. They were his grandfather, uncles, teachers, whether he should kill them. A big dharmic question. But a bigger question was the Sanatana Dharma, which means I should kill them to please Krishna. And which did he go for? He went for Sanatana Dharma. And so he was victorious. So Bhagavatam gives us, that's why it's such a pure literature. It takes you on the very highest platform of pleasing Krishna, which is the highest dharma. It goes beyond Mahabharata. That's why it's higher than Mahabharata. So these questions make for a good character person. They make for a good leader. And believe me, whether our children can become big doctors or engineers is not as important as having these qualities. Because these qualities are what the world is looking for. And these are the qualities that pleases Krishna. Right? And they will automatically be successful in their material life as well. Like I said yesterday, everything material comes from spiritual. A devotee naturally is blessed with these qualities. He's naturally going to be a good grahastha. He's naturally going to take care of his parents. If one has this quality. A wife who is a devotee of the Lord is naturally going to have qualities of still want to be a good dharmic wife. In other words, But if a person doesn't have good qualities, and same thing with the husband, the husband also, he will be a good, an example to the family. So all these qualities, they are very natural in a devotee. And how do we inculcate them? Is through these wonderful stories in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's many such examples, of course. Now we'll talk a little bit about academic benefits from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. I've also already mentioned these skills that one takes, that one can get, try to get it. I mean, nowadays schools are giving these skills, trying to give these skills. But see, the books that they use are not as profound as Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the difference. Artificially, you can teach all these skills from books, and they do try to teach them to some level in the schools. But because the set of books that they use is not transcendental or profound like Srimad Bhagavatam, the skills that they learn is good, but not as good as what you get from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? In America, if you want to become a lawyer, then there's one degree that they prefer their candidates to have, students to have, and that's a degree in philosophy. For a lawyer, to become a lawyer, they prefer that the applicant, has a philosophy degree. And that's not because what the content of the philosophy, but it's because the skills that's needed to reach philosophical solutions. So you can imagine a child growing up as reading Srimad Bhagavatam, what kind of lawyer he's going to be. His intelligence will be so sharp. See? So what I'm saying is that it doesn't restrict any child from entering any field that he likes. And what to speak of the spiritual benefit, he becomes the Devotee, the Lord. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada said, one can understand every psychological situation in the world. Okay. So many things are happening in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? The mind of Suruchi, the psychology of Suruchi versus Suniti. Yeah. Everybody's so many different types of psychology, right? So you just become very, very mature in your dealings with others and reading somebody else's emotions, feelings, mind. You become very expert in that. So that's why, the reason why it worked for my children, which I later realized, is because, and how they were able to sit in a classroom with children 6 or 8 years older than them, is because of Bhagavatam. When you're reading these stories, and they're very innocent. You know how our kids are much more innocent. Somebody was telling me yesterday, right? The devotee kids are so innocent when they go to you were telling me, right? And they're so innocent compared to other children there. Even with all their, attraction to smartphones and all. Even with all that, they're innocent, right? Because of our lifestyle. Our lifestyle, chanting, hearing, reading. It's just the nature of our lifestyle. There's no clutter. Clutter means all the stuff that goes on in the world. Our children escape all that. It's a fact, right? So, I don't know what point I was making in relation with that, but so how was he able to do it 6 years older than him? It's because, reading Bhagavatam, you understand the psychology of all these personalities that we read and why they behave and their fall downs. Bhagavatam is so much about people's fall downs. Bharat Maharaj fell down, became a deer. But the question is not so much about the fall down. That's not surprising in material world. But how you pick yourself up and how you react to that, that's what we learn in Srimad Bhagavatam. You see? Okay, so material life is going to have its temptations and its challenges, but how do we deal with it? I mean, which child gets the nature of the, mature world in a way that we get through Shastra? One after another, every story we hear. It's not just about Srimad Bhagavatam is not just about how to go back to Godhead, become a pure. It's about giving us again and again the nature of mature life. This is what to expect. This is how it is. The story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad is a good case. Srila Prabhupada really, wanted us to read the Prahlad story. And in Vrindavan, he spent 3 months covering this section, the Prahlad section. Because he said that it's very much relevant to our life, to our world. Very, very relevant. You would think, well, this is a story a long time ago, Hiranyakashipu, this demon. There's no Hiranyakashipu now. Prabhupada says there's a lot of them, Yeah, and there are a lot of them. And but so it's a story about a demon, but also it's a story about the greatest hero, Prahlad, and how he lives in this world with self-serving leaders. So we have to also learn like that, right? How do you live in a world that's becoming more and more self-serving? The leaders are getting corrupt, all they care about is themselves, their selfishness. How do you live in a world like that? Who are destroying the planet? Well, Hiranyakashipu was also destroying the planet. He was also destroying the trees, the fruit trees. And you see that? Do you see any fruit trees around on the road? No. It used to be everywhere, even in India, it's all gone. There used to be mango trees. Anybody is hungry, they go and get a fruit and eat. Now you cannot find it. The rivers are polluted. Hiranyakashipu was even destroying the mines, his own, resources. The question is, why would a king destroy his own kingdom? Right? And the reason is because of his envy of Krishna. That's another lesson we learned there, right? When a person is envious of Krishna, which means he wants to become as powerful as Krishna, then he wanted to destroy everything that was pleasing to Krishna. The sages were pleasing to Krishna. The fruit trees are very pleasing to Brahmanas for the yagyas and ghee and all that. So he killed the cows because he was envious of the cows, because that, the Brahmanas needed that for their yagyas. So everything was destroyed which was dear to the devotees of the Lord. I don't see much difference today, between Hiranyakashipu's rule and today's what's happening today. Very similar. So you get a picture, you get a pretty good picture. And children being raised with that picture, they are not blinded, when things happen to them, they understand, okay, this is the nature of the mature world. But how do I live in it? It's shown by Prahlad. Imagine growing up in a world like this, where you don't know why this is happening. Right? And this is what creates frustration in the children. This is why they turn to drugs and intoxication. Because they don't have the answers. They don't have the solution. Our children are so fortunate if we allow them to be fortunate and delve into Srila Prabhupada's book. Then they know, okay, this world is disappointing, material life, but I can be happy here. Prabhupada said, actually, you can be happy as long as you know how to use it in Krishna's doctrine and Krishna's service. And devotees are happy. Of course, we always pray to go back to Godhead. It's not a permanent place to be alone. So in other words, it gives them a growing up, when children read Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives them a very realistic picture of what's life. It's not mythology, it's not creating in them, separation from the material world. It's all about the material world. They're very connected to the material world. The difference is that they are not experiencing it directly. Like I said yesterday, I think we are not isolating them, we are insulating them. I mean, Prahlad, within the womb, he heard Narad Muni, and he was preaching. When he was preaching, he knew everything, how to see the material world and what to do, even without experiencing it. So in other words, we don't have to give our children the hardcore experience of material life. We don't need to do that. Just by being in the material world, they will experience it. Who can escape the pains and sufferings of the material? But we see it, as devotees, we see it with a context. Right? We know that it's why it's happening, what is the nature of this life, and why, and how to deal with it. Okay, so these are very, very practical skills again. So this is like practical education. It's not just theoretical education. It's practical, really practical, right? Communication skills. And that will come in our next section when we talk about methodology, why communication skills, vocabulary, and all these things are so easily taught from Srimad Bhagavatam, through context. When you put some words in front of the children and you say, okay, get the dictionary, learn how to spell them, check out the meaning, well then those words, it becomes a very difficult process. They don't want to do it, right? But from Srimad Bhagavatam, you take into context, then it's very easily done. You read a word, you read a sentence, and that word is in the sentence, and you ask them to guess the meaning, and through context, they will know what it means. Methodology. So this is what I did, and you can try, you can adapt it, but I found for many years I did that with my children and with other children. I have online, I was covering like 100 children a week, doing classes for children, giving them the taste of Srimad Bhagavatam, training parents how to discuss with children, how to teach children Srimad Bhagavatam. So what we do is, if you have the time, you can read the purpose ahead of time, that would be nice, because then what happens is you can take some points from the puppet and in the form of discussion and bring it out in the form of discussion, right? And you can note them down on the side, but you don't have to take every point in every puppet, because remember I said that children can be taught in layers. You don't have to give them everything all in one go, right? So you pick up, there's certain topics you like to speak about, and you want them to discuss, and you want them to kind of give their reflections on it. So you pick out those things, what Prabhupada is saying in relation to the story. If you have the time. If you don't have the time to publish, you still do it, because your experience as an adult will be a lot more than your children. Okay? And you'll still be able to give them. Right? Okay? So I found that if you do read, it's a way to read Srimad Bhagavatam, for yourself, otherwise you never get the chance. And by the time the children finish reading Bhagavatam, you would have read it too. That's how I read the entire Bhagavatam, is when I was teaching my kids. Otherwise I know I would have never been able to read it, because we had a center and there was so much to do and all those things. Okay. So now what do? We open a book, right? And we took turns reading only translation. We took turns reading only translation. We take turns, okay? Like that. And the reason this is very, very good way, because when the child's turn comes for reading, he's waiting. Children love to read, and it traps them, their attention. Otherwise they're like, they get distracted. But they know their turn is coming, so it forces them to pay attention. It's a very good way of trapping them. And the children like reading so much that when I was doing these classes, if I would skip somebody by accidentally, they would tell me. And these would be teenagers. So children like to read. So we take turns reading, and you stop from time to time where you want to discuss. If you're reading purpose every time, you'll know where you want to discuss. Some of the things will be spontaneous, which is fine, so you stop for discussion. And remember, they are not reading the purpose, but you're giving the purpose to them. So it's not like you're ignoring Prabhupada's purpose, because purpose will really help you, go deep into the idea, and then your discussion will naturally become deep, right? And it's amazing how deep even a 4-year-old goes. Now, of course, a 4-year-old cannot read, right? But I'll tell you, I'll discuss that later. Okay? And then discussion, and then reflection, and summarization. In other words, the children now get to speak. After you finish a chapter, generally I would take in one turn, I would finish one chapter, unless the chapter is very big. An average size chapter of 30, 40 verses, you're able to do it in 1 hour. Because you're not stopping at every verse, or because children, they need to be moving. Remember, they're going to read this again and later on in their life, right? So you have to keep moving, because children get restless. You keep moving, you stop for discussion, you start reading again with them, and then you stop like that. It takes about an hour, one chapter. And then, so the chapter is finished, then you ask them to give their realizations. And this is the most exciting part for them. Because children like to give their realizations. Children like to read. They like to think about things. And when they share their realization, I mean, they feel like they've conquered an empire. They feel so, because Krishna is in their hearts. They suddenly, a world has opened out to them, opened up for them, where they're experiencing, answers to questions. They're experiencing love for Krishna, And sometimes these realizations that they give is so deep, you'll be amazed, and it'll be as good as an adult realization. One time I was doing the Dhruva story with like 8 or 9-year-olds, and when we came to the realizations, they were just going so deep. And he said, wow, my brain is going to explode. This is amazing how deep it goes. They love it. They see Bhagavatam from a whole different perspective. And what they learn is they start taking shelter of Bhagavatam. What is teaching our children that later on, when we have challenges in our life, we learn to take shelter of Bhagavatam. Because as they are giving their realizations and as they are hearing, this is what they're learning. How these characters are taking shelter of Krishna. So naturally, we learn how to take shelter of Krishna. You see? So it's a very amazing, heart-changing, experience for children. This one. How do you teach Bhagavatam to toddlers? So it begins, because I see so many little babies here. So Bhagavatam, there's a group in London called the Baby Bhagavatam Group. So they were inspired by this process that I was doing, and they started for children, because they were not that young. I think I should change that to 2 to 4, like that. And so they were doing step by step, So I need to just take out one at the bottom. So this is the guidebook a lot of you saw yesterday. So what they do, the group in London, they take one chapter a week, and they make it very creative for these children. Like very attractive for that young children. So they take the theme and the story and everything, all the ideas in this book, because there's a summary story for each chapter, all the activities and everything. So they do. So you can adapt the book according to the age. You can make it easier or harder, like that. So they do that, and they start from first canto, chapter 1. So there's a recording here, and I don't know if I'll be able to play that, but it's this Aruddha Mataji who does this, and she makes audios. Have you heard anybody? Aruddha? Okay. So you can play that for somebody, some other devotees, and they'll get an idea how to approach the younger kids. And if you do it systematically, one chapter a week, every week, it's actually a lot of fun. And you know how much you benefit because you're learning the story, and she's made audios on these things. Of course, you can do your own version. You cannot. It's just to give you an idea. These audios are simply to give you an idea, but all the material is here. So again, very very powerful. And so that's, in other words, the children cannot read, but then what do? You show them the pictures, right? You show them the pictures, and again you can show them. They like repetition, right? And you can repeat, tell them the story in your own words from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, we have to understand that Prabhupada's books have a potency. Prabhupada, these are Prabhupada's books, right? So the more you do directly from his books, the more potent it is. So now the next level, 47, and this is the level I'm saying is just amazing. Very, very amazing. So at this age they may not know how to read, so you read the translations to them, but as you're reading the translations, you're making a creative image of what's going on to them. You make it very dramatic and explain to them, build a picture what's going on. So they are hearing the translation, they are not reading, but you're creating a picture, and then you are creating questions and interaction, interactive session with them, challenging them with questions, and then some simple questions, some deeper questions, and each time you do that, the capacity of going deeper and deeper increases. It's my own, I've experienced that with so many children. The more you do with them every day, the more, every day if you're doing it, they see the effect. Over time, very soon you'll see they have the capacity for understanding abstract things, the capacity for understanding philosophy is just so much deeper. So much deeper. And of course there's application for it too. Like in your discussion, you could always bring that for personal application, for struggles that you're facing that you want to discuss with the child. And that creates a very close-knit relationship between the parents and the child, or one parent and the child. Bhagavatam may help the children become very close to their parents. Very close. Because that's a spiritual, transcendental subject matter. You try to do so much, and it may not create that closeness. Because there's so many things we're fighting with, right? But something about, when you're just doing Shastra with them, just like when you, with adults, like when you read Bhagavatam together, there's some kind of closeness between devotees that develops, right? Because it's a spiritual subject matter. Same thing with children. You develop very close relationships with them if you do Bhagavatam. Then you stop when you discuss and all those things, the same thing that I just said, let them reason. I want to give you one example of a child who, and with several children that I was doing. One time I was doing this Dhruva story. I was doing the Dhruva story, and in that story, I was mentioning how there was a description about, that airplane that came to take Dhruva. This is a very powerful experience I had, plus I had with other children. So there was this child who was sitting there and said, I want to go in that plane right now. Because the description of the plane was so amazing, it was so beautiful. And I said, okay. I was thinking, well, he's a child and he's going to get over that. He said, and then he kept insisting, no, but I want to sit in that airplane and go back to Krishna, to Goddess, and that I want to do it. And then I said, okay, if you want to do it, then you will have to wait. You can do it, but your mommy and daddy cannot go with you. Is that okay? I was thinking, let me put it like that. And then he started thinking about it and he said, I will wait. Why? Because I don't want to make the same mistakes that Ajamal did. Did everybody catch why? I don't want to make the same mistake as Ajamal did. And the story of Ajamal, everybody knows that story? Yeah? So when Ajamal came to his senses, when he saw the Yamadutas and he said, he was saved by the Vishnu Duttas, right? And then he got a second chance. In other words, he didn't die, right? Because Vishnu Dutta saved him from going to hell. So he got a second chance. So when he got out, then he totally reformed his life. He realized, oh my God, what did I do? I did so many sinful things. I don't want to do it again. And he went to Haridwar and totally changed his life. But the first thing that he felt was he was regretting for all the sinful things he said. And the things that he was regretting, he said, oh my God, I neglected my old parents. They were old, they were needing my help, and I neglected them. And I threw away my chaste wife in favor of this prostitute. So he was regretting those things, right? He had done that. So this child remembered that, and he said, how can I go? How can I make that same mistake? If my parents don't go, what's going to happen to them in their old age? You see? So he took two stories and he compared them, bringing us back to character training. So in other words, that character training that he got from that, that how to be grateful, learning from those lessons. And I have other examples too. And this was a 4.5-year-old child. 4.5-year-old child, right? So just to tell you that how important it is to, this is how we teach them. The academic skills, the spiritual skills, the character training, all this is here. 8 to 15-year-old, same process. The discussion gets deeper. These are older kids. And there's so many topics that you can cover on that, right? They are kids who are now teenagers and they have, issues with being attracted to the opposite sex. So many things are there, right? There's so many wonderful stories that teach those principles of proper behavior with the opposite sex. So many stories in Srimad Bhagavatam. It shows both ways. What happens when you don't behave properly, the result you get from that, and what happens when you do behave properly in good grahastha ashram. And you get good children that you raise as devotees. So both these scenarios are there. So the children get that picture very clearly. It's a wonderful way to learn about, this attraction through Srimad Bhagavatam, rather than leaving them to learn from videos or from, other sources. Which is obviously, it's not very good, right? So because many parents ask me whether there's some difficult adult topics in the Srimad Bhagavatam, whether they should do that with the children. And my answer to that is yes. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is so transcendental, it puts everything in the proper perspective. It cannot be ever harmful or negative. In fact, children who grow up reading Srimad Bhagavatam, they are properly placed in their relationships. You can't stop in Kali Yuga. The girls and the boys will have to mix, but they know the boundaries. You see, they know how to deal with it. They know that this attraction is meant to lead to marriage, not for sense gratification, right? For responsible marriage. In other words, a relationship is good as long as we are planning to get married. So this is, there's so many wonderful stories in that. I can go back if anybody is interested in that, if they have challenges in that. This is the topic here. Good examples, bad examples, but then how they learn through those bad examples, all is there, right? Puranjan stories, Diti and Puranjan stories shows the bad effects of this attraction, where they go through much suffering, all of them, the Puranjan and Puranjan's wife. And the good examples are Prithu Maharaj, Kardamuni, Kashyapa and Daksha. They produce wonderful children. So all these things are there. And as you read, these things will come across. Prabhupada's purpose are so nice, so wonderful, and he explains everything. Okay. So, Dhruva's story I've already discussed with you, but just this story is so deep, and it's so much fun because the hero of this story is the child himself. Dhruva is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old child, right? So the children are really attracted to these kind of stories that are children themselves. Now here we learn so many good lessons. What is envy in Suruchi, the quality of envy, and how envy is so detrimental, is so harmful, because you actually want to kill somebody. That's what envy is, harm somebody, right? Jealousy is different. Jealousy is not so harmful, but envy is bad, right? And Suruchi teaching them, how to avoid envy. And then about the king, why the king did not get a heavy reaction like his wife Suruchi got. Why he escaped it is due to atonement, to him feeling lamenting and to him feeling really sorry for doing what he did. So we were discussing with children about the concept of how do you atone, how do you say sorry when you do something. To learn it from the Dhruva story was very deep. I know there was one parent who came and told me that some child had hit her and been very mean to her. And she came back to her mother and said, Mata, I have to, the Dhruva story, we were learning how if somebody is mean to you, you don't hate that person. So I cannot do that. And she totally practically applied that lesson in her dealings with her friend. So it does create very saintly qualities in children, right? So the king was feeling atoning for all that. He was atoning for all the mistakes. Day and night, he gave up being king. So he was able to escape that heavy reaction. So we teach them how to say sorry to somebody you've offended. Not just by saying the word sorry, but how to, really make amends for it. How to really get into the shoes, feel empathy for them. And then the qualities of Queen Suniti. Queen Suniti. How even though she was neglected by the king, right? She became so glorious. Why? Because of her chastity to Krishna. Right? So no matter what our external circumstances may be, when we are chaste to Krishna, then we become very glorious. Suniti became glorious because she led Dhruva and herself be chaste to Krishna. In her greatest difficult moment, she did not forget Krishna. I mean, it looks very simple, but when one is faced with this kind of obstacle, the reaction is not what her reaction was. It's not. Only when a great devotee has a reaction like that. Practically, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You see? So sometimes we are faced with situations like that. Very difficult situations in life. But she became so glorious. Simple woman, neglected, living outside the palace. But she's remembered even today. So the quality that comes out, which is so important for anybody, in any circumstance, is to be a devotee, a faithful devotee of Krishna. And other lessons here, how she found a spiritual solution to her material problem. Go to Krishna. A spiritual solution to material problem. If material solutions to material problems don't work for her, then she did not sit and lament and cry. She did something. Okay, there's a problem here. Not just lamenting, right? Okay. And then she changed, how Suniti changed an unfortunate situation into the most fortunate situation. she took something so unfortunate and she made it so fortunate. She went herself back to God, and her son also went back to God. Something which was so devastating for her. Imagine not even her own pain that she was facing, but imagine a son feeling like he doesn't belong there. Right? Okay. So some lessons we learn. See, these are some of the lessons. Don't be envious if you desire something, ask Krishna. Tolerate and act with integrity at all times. Be determined and focused. By devotional service, we can change the world. Krishna is coming. So this is our next topic. That I will open it for questions and then I will do this topic. So anybody has any questions on the Srimad Bhagavatam? I mean, there's also science and how we can, I already spoke about that, right? About how to do science first from the Bhagavatam. The fifth canto is so much science there, right? Right? So if you teach science from Srimad Bhagavatam, then when they're faced with that modern science, I'll take you back to that. Yeah. So many modern scientific theories. Prabhupada refused that again and again and again in his purports and also in his morning walk conversations that he would have with his disciples where they would debate, play devil's advocate with each other. It's all there. And he convinces everyone. This book, Homeschooling Krishna's Children, is all there. It's all, there's a whole chapter on how you teach science with children. It looks it's got a different cover. This one. It helps to understand, get the understanding of how to go about it, how to teach them science. They're going to learn the outside science, right? They're going to learn that. But how important it is to teach them first from Shiva, the theistic science, not the mechanistic science that we learn outside, right? Because they try to make it very convincing in schools. They've got these colorful television shows on the Big Bang Theory, and it just looks so colorful. It's just so easy to believe in that. Who wants to sit and read Shastra and hear from that, the creation story, right? But when you get into it, it's very fascinating in the Bhagavatam. Okay? So all these theories can be refuted one by one. And it's all here in this book. But I can also explain it to you if anybody is interested. But it's done very nicely. Okay, and there's very nice books also that comes. And most of all is in the purpose. The Prabhupada's purpose. So, anybody has any questions about teaching? I covered the topic of how to teach Srimad Bhagavatam to our children. That's the topic. Yes.
Krishna labai daug demonų nužudo ir tas Krishnos vaidinimas, kaip vaikus skatintų smurtą, kaip tinkamai pateikti vaikams tas istorijas.
I see a conflict in some stories because Krishna kills many demons and there's so much violence. Ir būtų klausimas daug.
Pateikti vaikams. Pateikti tinkamai, paaiškinti, tai nėra žudynės.
How should we tell children about that violence?
Okay, this is one topic I didn't cover, so we came right back to that. Yeah. It's right here on the screen also. So the violence as depicted in Srimad Bhagavatam is very different from the violence that a child sees outside and hears and sees on video games and all that. It's very different because the violence shown given in Srimad Bhagavatam puts it into perspective. Because the reality is that just staying in the material world, there's going to be violence. That's the nature of this material world. Either we're going to be the victim at some point or another, or perpetrator. In other words, we are giving the violence. Right? Either way, somebody is a victim, somebody is a perpetrator. So one cannot get away from violence. But what Srimad Bhagavatam is doing is when all attempts of making peace fails, then violence becomes necessary. Right? We see that, in the case of Arjuna, he didn't want to fight, but there was no recourse except to fight. Violence was necessary. So in other words, there's good violence and there's bad violence. So good violence is when everything else fails, then one has to submit to violence. But that violence is pleasing to Krishna because it's meant to overcome the bad and do the good, right? So that's why it's righteous violence. The violence that we see today in the world is gratuitous violence, which means it's a violence just for sense gratification. Because my needs have not been met, I'm greedy for something, so I have to get it through violence. And that kind of violence is very, very detrimental when children are exposed to it. Okay? Because there's no reason for that violence except selfishness. So you see in the movies, what kind of picture do we get? Shooting, anything. You're traveling on the airplane and somebody's turned on and you see. It's just crazy. I mean, people are just shooting at each other. Nobody knows why. What is the reason for that shooting? Why they're killing each other? They're just shooting. Now, if children are exposed to that violence, they will become violent. This is fact. But the violence in the Srimad Bhagavatam all has a wonderful purpose to it. Now you see in Krishna killing so many demons, and that's the point we're making, right? And he's killing in very creative ways, right? He's tearing the beak of Bakasura very creatively. He's suffocating Agasura, right? So but it's all for a purpose. They are here to destroy life and everything, so he does that. But note that only Krishna does that. Mother Yashoda never kills, Nand Maharaj doesn't kill, the cowherd boys don't kill, even though they are young boys. Only Krishna kills. His devotees don't kill. Right? And when Krishna kills, not only that, the demons are liberated. So Krishna's killing and Krishna's saving is the same. He's so merciful. He's simply trying to take out the vice and let the good win. And that's necessary in the material world. Okay. And no child is going to become violent due to that. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam through Prabhupada's books and purports, no child will become violent because it's put in the right perspective. Okay. But if they are exposed to video games and that kind of violence, they will become violent. Okay. Now sometimes, if they are watching a movie, Krishna movie, a Mahabharata or something where there's fighting and everything, and or a movie that's not well made, and there's a lot of Krishna things and they're violent, you may have to use your judgment. If you think that by watching they can become violent, and sometimes movies are not made nicely, then you don't show it to them. You have to use your judgment. But they won't become violent from reading Srila Prabhupada's books, my point is. Okay. What they become violent that you're talking about sometimes that they've seen that movie and then it's because they watched something. And that you can stop.
So reading books is safer than showing them some Vaishnava.
Especially Prabhupada's books.
Yeah, Prabhupada.
Sometimes children's books, if they're not well made, it may have gruesome pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like not good pictures. I've seen books like that. They're printed and they are religious books. So you have to see, yeah. Sometimes you get that, so you have to be careful. But I know that Prabhupada's books won't do that. And if a devotee, responsible devotee is creating books, it will also be okay. You know, you just have to use your judgment. But I know that from Bhagavatam, no child will become violent. Yeah. Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. That is a very good question, Prabhu. Very good question.
So maybe a question of if you begin teaching them Bhagavatam from the very beginning, that's easier. But when you haven't done that and the child is like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old, and they might not have that much interest in that. They might have already polluted. So how do you interest them in Bhagavatam?
Good question. So what you do is you start with stories. Rather than Canto 1, Chapter 1, you start with stories. You know, and then do what Dhruva story or some, the Gajendra and the crocodile, you know, they may like that, right? And you get them attracted, and then you go on to Canto 1, Chapter 1. You go back. Let them get attracted to, oh, Bhagavatam is fun, because, you know, the story is interesting, you know, some discussion that they like, you know, it evokes, try to have discussion where, you know, they are curious and they can answer and they can discuss. So like that, when their hearts are attracted, then they will be okay. It takes a little work, I mean, especially when children haven't grown up reading that, and to bring them to that habit of reading, then it takes a little effort. It takes a little determination to do that every day. Even if it's for 15 minutes, do it. You know? And then gradually it's going to increase and increase and increase.
Maybe it would be good to have maybe like a tradition of family reading. So it's not that you read with your child, but almost like, okay, the father says, like, okay, I actually would like to read that now, go deeper. Wife, do you want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. The child, maybe not. Maybe from the first week or second week, no. But maybe if the child will see that tradition happening in the middle of the main room, with, I don't know, with the candles and some atmosphere, they might just pass by and just join at some point. Just a suggestion, I guess, would that work?
Yeah, you can try all different kinds. You can try different things, how it works with you. There will be some resistance in the beginning, you know, but you know, depending on the age of the child and everything, you may have to, you know, and you can balance it with reading Bhagavatam and then playing a game, you know, like, so they get everything. Any other struggles? Do you think that anybody having teenage kids is going to be difficult to do that? It seems like everybody has little kids here, right? Not so much. So you're in a good situation, right? Very good.
Not here, we play.
Yeah,
Big children somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. So they will be averse to reading Bhagavatam with you? Not so much. Yeah?
No, they're independent. They are finding themselves, you know, and so on, adults.
Yeah. Well, they can do all that. You can just say this is part, like she's saying, part of this tradition we want to make as a family, and everybody joins in. And right?
But mostly they're sitting in their rooms putting that one.
Oh, really?
Nothing here, nothing. And closing doors. It's my world.
Really?
Now I'm thinking, or I'm now choosing how to live. If they will decide that I am interested in them, then it's okay. But I will say, okay, you do what you want, but it's part now.
Her older daughter is not a teenager, she's like 17, almost 18 now, so That's not, almost not a child anymore. And
Nowadays it's still a child.
nowadays, they think they are adults.
Yeah, they're attending program that daughter was going to India.
Why don't you have a youth program here for these age kids from 13 or 12 to 17? Start something where they're out of their room.
Because all we have small kids, and they're running here, there, so something, and you're mostly putting.
There are no older kids, very few.
She only has two, that's it.
That's it in the whole
Well, she
community?
has three children, one 17, another one somewhere in the middle, and third one is like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my brother and sister, that's the whole teenage community. And the other two girls we had, they now.
They're sometimes, they're sometimes singing some bhajans, some like some festivals or something, but only. If some friends come making festivals, it's okay, they're also coming. If not, so then what I will do here?
So there's only a couple of teenage people here. That's it.
Some boys, a lot of boys, but they're not so much in this house.
Oh, there's some teenage boys also?
But we didn't do them once in singing. That was really nice during the celebration. They were singing here. The whole she did try to do
Yeah,
that.
but they're ashamed now because
Yeah,
they're
we feel like
not that those they're teenagers, they're ashamed. Not so much easier. With small, it's easier like, to sing some bhajans or something. But
Do they get involved in temple life at all? Like, do they
yeah,
come?
they're going to that.
Yeah,
They see everything we know.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah. And they were raised as devotees, so they know everything, right?
yeah, from childhood there.
Yeah.
Temples that ending when they were small, always attending, and we call that small.
Yeah.
It's but late.
But this, yeah, they still do participate, but of course it's a very small percentage of time that they spend doing Vaishnava things, and then the rest is just the material, like, or either studies or some courses or their own stuff.
They spend some time doing Vaishnava things, you said?
Well, I guess so if they come sometimes for celebrations, for programs, if they come sometimes, if they don't attend the day, they can come to eat prasad, at least the diya. That's a good thing, at least that. They do sometimes, even if they feel ashamed, they sometimes participate in some actions like mini drama or something. It's really rare, but it happens. And older daughters sometimes attend also the celebrations, which is good. And also they sometimes travel to Koras, attend there. So it's happening, but the percentage is so small because, everyday life takes a lot of time, and celebrations, they just here and there for some programs or something.
And school and all that, right?
And school, yes, just
Yeah, in high school.
material, so.
Yeah.
And we just don't have enough people and resources to have all Vaishnava activities here for them separately, not even enough.
Why you cannot have that? It doesn't take too many resources for that. I mean, you just have to get them together and do activities, fun activities, Krishna conscious activities, kirtan or, some discussion or invite somebody to. I mean, you can get a lot of ideas from the Pandav Sena in London. They have a very nice youth group. Get some ideas. They put up plays which are like amazing. Or, get them involved. If a festival is coming up, you can get them involved in a drama. All done by teenagers.
I guess that there must be a person who is responsible for that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of parents can be responsible. Whose children are involved in this, they are naturally going to be most
I
interested.
guess first of all it all comes from parents and then
Yeah,
tired
yeah.
of that. But
Yeah.
if everybody's so tired that they can barely just attend the festival, and even then sometimes they don't come. Some do come, some organize, but some quite passive, sometimes we miss them.
Yeah, if you want to see a change, we have to do
We
something.
have to start with ourselves.
That's the whole thing. And it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless.
I guess everybody's trying to do something. It's
Yeah.
not like, why would we be here anyway, otherwise? Of course we are trying, probably not enough, but
Yeah.
as much as we can, as much as our ego allows us.
Yeah.
Whatever else.
No, it's it's not so much ego as much as we haven't really realized the importance of it. like we just let it go, like what can we do type thing, you know. But actually, my experience is that it can work. It can work, you know. It does. The change does happen, and I know many cases where children kind of totally go away. They're devotee kids. They totally go away and they come back. It happens, you know. Sometimes, there was one parent in London, and the child was he was adolescent, and he was growing away from Krishna consciousness, and then we suggested, why don't you take him to Mayapur? And she took him to Mayapur, and he enrolled in some course, some course. It may have been Bhakti Shastri or something. And 3 months of staying in the Holy Dham totally changed him. So those miracles also happen. You see? In association of devotees, 3 months. School may be delayed a little bit, like after high school is a good time, when there's a little gap, it's also a very good time. And doing all that, sometimes even if a year is lost, it's still very good. Even if a year of school is lost, because this is the time where you want to save them. Otherwise it becomes too late. It becomes a little late. Because they are having troubles now. So this is the time where you need to give them that spiritual, that connection. And it's okay if they get a little late. My son took off for a whole year at one point. Just traveled with his Guru Maharaj. And then he came back and he continued. Why not? What's more important, right? So we sometimes have to make decisions like that, and sometimes we have to think of novel ways of how to pull them back in. Now, ultimately, it's up to Krishna. We can't force them, obviously, But, they're already devotees, and it just needs, pushing a button here and there. And we provide them that facility, that avenues where they can come back. And generally they come back when they have peer association, when they have other children who are also doing the same thing. That's the most effective, rather than the parents. That's true. They don't want to listen to the parents at that age, but what works for them is other people. Other maybe a sannyasi that, or some powerful personality, a Mayapur, Holy Dham, things like that. A youth group where they feel like they can contribute something. Get them involved in the temple, cooking a feast. Get all these young people to cook a feast some Sunday, where they can show. I know it feels impossible, but if they have a group of like-minded people where they're feeling, oh, he's going to do it too, then it could happen. If you tell them, obviously it's not going to happen, right? But if you make a youth group and you get them involved, where they feel that, oh, this is my group, and do fun things with them, take a group out on a field trip or something, go somewhere over here close by or something. Just some ideas. Yes, sorry.
Ваше наблюдение говорят о том, что, может быть, после 12 лет нам хочется быть теоретиками Бхагаватам, каких-то дом, философских, религиозных. И хочется что-то делать, заменять свои чувства, тело, способности.
So from your experience, after 12 years, seems like kids don't want to be just like a theoretist, but they want to get their feelings, their skills involved in some action.
Детей есть потребность сделать что-то, достигать.
Kids have the desire to do something, to achieve something.
Не хочется просто сидеть, слушать.
They don't want to be just sitting and listening.
Yeah.
Like a practical
Okay, yeah, then.
Есть такие школы, ну вот сейчас я знаю, например, ну они не создали Кришны, но, например, уже дети там в 12-14 лет строят дом.
So there's like schools where, for example, kids are
It's not in Krishna consciousness, but
yeah, it's not a Christian school, consciousness schools, but like other kind of interesting kind of schools where kids at 12 or 14 years old they start to have a skill to build a house already.
В общем, девочки и мальчики там уже в 16 лет, они настолько зрелые, самостоятельные.
So by the time they approach like 16 years,
И
they're
не
still mature
философские, а практически.
and self-sufficient, not philosophical, but very practical.
Это подход, именно подход к ребенку, понимание его способностей и потребностей.
So that's the approach to a child, understanding their skills and their needs.
Слово как вам думаете?
So what do you think about that? Not just kind of reading, but like
Yeah. And that's what I was talking to right now, when you make a youth group, that they can do physical things also, like, constructing, like you said, cleaning the temple room or cleaning this room. Why not? Some physical activity, or building a house. So if the temple needs remodeling, does your temple room need remodeling? Well, get them engagement. It's devotional service. You're talking about constructing.
Harinam.
Harinam is good. They won't go on. Harinam.
They sometimes go around Harinam. We go into Harinam and they walking to shops around Harinam.
Смотрите, мы смотрим со своей точки зрения, что нам кажется важным, чтобы эта норма сработала. А ребенок смотрит еще своими глазами. И Господь тоже имеет на его планы. Надо учиться все аспекты.
So we're looking at this situation only from the point of view what we want from a child, but the child also has his or her own desires, and also God has plans for that child also. So we kind of need to look at it from both aspects.
So you can do that. Engage them. I mean, not in devotional service, you can engage them outside. That's not a problem, right? Whatever you want to do, you can do. Here we are talking about how to bring them back into Krishna consciousness. That's why we are discussing these ideas. But if they also need to work, they are one day going to be earning members, they're going to need a job and they need to work, all that is going to be automatically coming. You will have to do that. They will have to do it. Here we are discussing about different ideas, how to kind of engage them in devotional service, and that was our whole point here. But in terms of everything else, they would have to do it. Why not? But then also, like Prabhu, you're saying that it's a good idea, like if they do for work for a devotee, sometimes devotees have businesses. Like when Krishna is always part of the picture, it's about nice. If a devotee has a business and he wants to engage these children, that's very nice. Because Krishna is part of the picture. There's some connection. And that has its impact. And that's a very good idea.
So maybe the problem is even in the fact that we have people in general have lost connection at all, even in normal things with the kids. Therefore, they can't gain connection even doing regular things. Let them build a house. No. So, father is not an authority anymore, or like father is not interesting anymore. Why should I follow you, build some sort of house? It's not fashionable. I don't want to do that. So, I guess first of all, we need to bring that connection with the children, and then spiritual connection. Because I think that's also possible in many cases.
Yeah.
Especially with all the kids, they can separate from parents and not feeling like they're leaders anymore. So we need to learn to be the leaders. Love leaders.
And one more thing, we also have a few teenagers and they also like, as they say, to do very serious things, but the laziness, the inactivity or something like stopping them, like it's on that stage only an idea for them maybe, I don't know, because in reality it's not like that, we can say. They will not be able to build a long house or whatever. Although usually we cannot do that. So, what to
So children, they want instant satisfaction. I think that's...
Our son, he desires to help, but in reality, oh, I'm lazy, I feel pain here, or whatever. He's crying and, sorry, I'm bad hairs, doesn't work.
Whatever the reason.
Yeah. But sure.
I didn't quite get it, so you'll have to tell me.
So basically, kids might want to have some sort of project, but when it comes to practice, they like decline it. They say, I have to too lazy today, or like, for example, the daughter will say, oh, I have a day of bad hair, I'm not going anywhere. Even that they can discuss, oh, maybe it would be nice to do something, but when it comes to practice, they decline. I guess it's not a question, it's just an observation of the facts, how it's happening. So you have to be, it's hard, it's really hard. Have to fix ourselves, then fix the contact with the children, and then jump into spiritual contact with the children. That's what adults, maybe with small ones, if you start from the beginning, maybe you have chances.
Yeah, better chance.
That's, maybe there's more. To save those who've grown up already in the culture of what's happening. You can keep trying and something will change, but it will never be perfect. But it's better than nothing.
Yes. So I was thinking we can go to the last section real quickly and spend like 10 minutes here, or 10 minutes. This is preaching is the essence. This is the third part of Prabhupada's motto, that how to build that faith. We are talking about that, so it's a very good point to bring it in. That how to create, they're losing their identity in Krishna as devotees, how to sustain that, how to bring that back. And of course, we are also talking about these little children as they're growing up. It's not about those that are already grown up, but about these children, how to keep their identity as devotees, how not to lose it, as they grow up and become teenagers. So this is, it's preaching. Sometimes we think that being child means to study, but preaching itself preaching or teaching is a very powerful way to study, is to learn. It's more effective than studying when you have to teach others. You know that, right? When you have to teach somebody, you really know that subject matter a lot better than when you're learning it for yourself. Because you have to present it nicely, you have to answer questions, you have to accept challenges, you have to answer challenges, you have to communicate well, you have to explain properly, clearly. You see, there's so much more going into the act of teaching somebody or preaching to somebody versus just learning yourself. Right? So preaching becomes very effective. It's a very good way to encourage. Children should be encouraged to do that because besides the skills that they learn, and what are the skills? Public speaking, marketing, debate, communication, and conflict management, right? All these skills we want our children to learn. It's done so effortlessly when they go out and preach. They automatically learn these skills, right? A book distributor knows how to sell books, right? Marketing, how to make it attractive, how to speak words that are going to be, attractive to him. So all these skills come so nicely in when children learn to preach. But most of all, what it does, it gives them the confidence that I'm a devotee, I'm proud to be a devotee. And this has to be cultivated from the beginning as early as we can, just so we don't lose it during that difficult period in their life, Try to do it, try to create that mood. And there's here many examples of how you can do that. You can come up with many examples of your own. Harinam and book distribution. And then, children are coming with us. They may not be ready for it, but we are doing it. So they're learning, they're observing, and And then as they get older, they can do it for themselves. But there's always something they can do on book distribution, right? They can give out cards, invitation cards, or small books, like that. Harinam is good. It's a very joyful thing. And then we had school and college programs that we approached the schools ahead of time and asked them if they would like to hear, from us, where we could make a cultural presentation of our way of life, our philosophy, simple philosophy, how we live, our chanting, mantra meditation, all these things. And a lot of them, they want to hear, they're curious. They like cultural diversity. And so when you go there, then the children, they participate in that. And they explain also what they can, depending on the age of the child. They can make presentations of their dress, they can do the kirtan, right? And if they're old enough, they can make the presentation on the philosophy, So what we were doing is that we were dividing it into different topics, the music, why we're vegetarians, mantra meditation, like that, simple thing. And then there would be a lot of questions. And the questions were very nice because then it would, that would give us, allow us to preach even more. Because when there are questions, then you have to answer them, right? So again, imagine the effect it has on the children, especially if it's good. And it always goes well because you have chanting, you have prashadam, sweet balls or something, simple prashadam. We used to take a peacock feather, conch shell, all these fun things to show them, maybe a Bhagavad Gita, right? To show them the Sanskrit and all that. We leave a book also, Prabhupada's books over there. So all these things, what it does, to the children is showing them, especially when they upload it, they feel, wow, I'm so special. And what to speak of when they're making presentations themselves. Even a small part of the whole presentation, So in other words, we're training them that sharing Krishna with others, it exposes them to the outside world. They become compassionate to see that even though they are not devotees, but they are also humans, and they are, how we can give Krishna to them, It's a nice way to expose them to the world, but in a way which they are, sharing Krishna with others. It's very, it works a very amazing way. We were doing that with different schools, elementary schools, later on with secondary schools. Then we started going to high schools. By then the children were ready to make presentations. They were 12 years old, 10 years old, like that, 12 years old for speaking. And it was amazing, because they learned public speaking. They learned public speaking, how to present. And these are short presentations, like half hour long. And it started out with a lot of nervousness and insecurity and all those things. But as they did more and more, they became more and more confident. Because they had to explain things, they had to answer questions, challenges. It's very nice. And because of the chanting and prasadam, it always ended up so wonderful. Right? We were also taking part in just bigger events like Thanksgiving time, Christmas time. The churches, we were invited to present our faith. And that used to be like 5 minutes. You know how they give time to each faith, like 5 minutes, So you get to chant a little bit, read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. You get your kids to do it. Okay. This is how we engage older kids, the teenage kids. You see? How to develop their identity as devotees, how to give them the faith that I'm proud to be a devotee. See, hundreds of people are sitting here and I'm making my presentation, I'm chanting, I'm making my presentation on reading a verse from the Gita. It goes a long way. And these don't require high philosophy. they're simple things, right? Very simple. To go into a school and make a presentation doesn't require much, It's simple, basic philosophy, music, connecting with people. Then, of course, temple programs, temple programs, home programs, temple programs. You have a nice temple, getting kids to give a class. Sometimes it may not be a perfect class, but speaking of philosophy, some of them really are looking for leadership roles. They want to be leaders, and so you help them be leaders by engaging them in this way. And leadership would come not only just in giving classes, organizing a cooking team, cooking for the Sunday feast, and naturally one child is naturally a leader in the team, So doing that, organizing a cleaning team, getting everything cleaned up, the nooks and the corners, it's a great satisfaction. Then music, chanting. There's a Sunday feast, get the kids to sing, do kirtan instead of the adults. Get the kids and let them take turns. 2 minutes for each one, or 5 minutes for each kirtan. Every child gets turns. Every child sings. And it's really fun, because one is on the harmonium, one is on the mridanga, kartals. You see, kirtan mela, a small kirtan mela here. At this kirtan, they won't feel like, oh, we've been asked to do something menial or something. They won't feel like that for kirtan, right? It's a fun thing. Get them to engage. If somebody is very good at that, get them to fix the sound system here, or do something for Janmashtami. In other words, the way we think is always how we can engage our children. How we can engage our children. And if you think hard enough, you will come up with things that they will want to do. It's not completely lost. Be optimistic, be hopeful. Krishna is there, You've trained them, you've brought them up as devotees. So they have it in them. And you don't know, Krishna can, one day they have these hooks in them, and you don't know when Krishna is going to pull one of those hooks. But you will be the facilitator, obviously. You have to make the first effort. And then whatever else you need to do with them, obviously all that is there, in terms of helping them have a good job and all those things. That's naturally going to be there. You have to do that. Festivals and temple programs, I'm sure you're already doing that, engaging them in festivals. All these things I've already spoken about. One thing that I was doing with children as they're growing up is getting them to write scripts for dramas that is going to happen, And this way they get a lot of writing in, and then they feel like directing it. If you've written a play, you want to direct it also. You want to at least have a part in that play. And I know that it's such a powerful way, because when you have a play for a festival, it's like practice after practice after practice. And what it's doing is engaging them in stories of Krishna and acting. And children like to express themselves. They want to express emotions, right? Right? They like to express emotions. And it's very important. They express that in Krishna consciousness, and not find it in other avenues, It's just so nice. We were engaging children in this way, all the other children in the community, having a festival for everything that we could get, And it just didn't mean that we need a perfect play. We just, waiting, like sometimes impromptu plays, practically, 1 week of practice or a few, whatever play. It doesn't have to be perfect. The idea behind it is engaging the kids. Taking excuse for every festival to get them engaged. reading about the Leela, hyping up the time till the time the festival was going to happen, building that enthusiasm up in different ways. Because the fact of the matter is, we are social people, right? Humans are social people. And this is the culture of Krishna consciousness. When presented through festivals and dramas, it goes very deep and it stays with them. This culture of Krishna consciousness, which means dressing up girls, it means, doing dramas and doing things. It's important. I mean, even Krishna in Vrindavan, if you hear Krishna Leela, the Brajvasis were using every excuse to have a festival. Everything, Sharad Purnima, anything. There's a festival in Vrindavan. So we have to give them this culture of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada gave us so much here. I was stopped, of course I was homeschooling, but for anybody, whether they're going to school or not, or staying at home studying, for everything, this is, we can use these opportunities. Okay, today is the appearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay, maybe we'll have a skit. Not a drama, but a skit.
What's the skit?
I mean, it's just a back and forth conversation, but based on the event. It's not exactly a drama. It's just like 2 or 3 people talking and conversing about something. Like that. Sometimes it's funny skit. They are funny skits, humorous ones. You can think. If you're creative, you can write one. You see. You have the children write something. Isn't there a skit about the famous one that I think Prabhupada gave that skit, spoke about that there was a philosopher who had to cross a river. The boatman and the philosopher. Anybody knows that story? And then he said, and he needed to cross. So the boatman said, okay, come in. And then suddenly, while he was crossing, there was this huge storm, very bad storm. And the boat was rocking and the river was like waves and all that. And so the boatman said, I don't think this boat is going to survive now. Now we need to jump and swim across now. And you know how to swim? And the philosopher said, no. Because the philosopher earlier was trying to tell him a lot of philosophy about this and that. So anyway, it's a funny, humorous skit. And then, I don't know how it goes really, but he asked him several things. And then he said, well, you wasted all your life just learning philosophy. And he drowned. So in other words, it was meant to teach him a deep lesson, And I don't know exactly, but I can send you the skit. It's a very famous skit in this one. So, he's just teaching some very deep philosophy, but presented in a really funny way. So you require some creativity to make these skits, You take something and, a topic and then make something funny out of it. So these kids are growing up, there's plenty of opportunities. Parenthood is not easy, I know, but the thing is that the more effort you kind of put in, it's a happy time also when you put the effort, because they are our kids and we love them so much. But the rewards come later, and as you're going also, in the process itself. So you put in an effort to make them Krishna conscious in different ways, because times are changing and we need to think obviously in different ways, in more innovative ways, which I may not be thinking, and you may come up with those ideas. Vacations, this is the last one. And again, we were going on Brajmandal Parikram, which is happening in Kartik. And this is a 1 month walk, about 400 kilometers walking in 1 month. So we were covering, I don't remember, but 15 kilometers a day or something. Or maybe, yeah. And it was so nice. And we were stopping. So this is a whole group of devotees that they organize. This is called Braj Mandal Parikrama. The ISKCON organizes this. And the devotees go, and every day they walk around Braj, and they stop in different places where Krishna did his pastimes. It's like it feels endless. And then we stop there and we hear the pastimes. You know, some very powerful devotees, senior devotees, and sannyasis also come. And then we take a dip in the holy kundas. So it's such a powerful experience for young children. You know, it's like my son calls it a devotional boot camp, which means, you know, you just like you're in the army. You know, it's like you're walking and then you sleep in a tent. You know, take water from a well. You get one bucket for each person. You know, you go for the call of nature outside in the fields. It's a very wonderful experience, you know, and it brings the families together because they're walking together, and there's kirtan going on. There's a kirtan party all the way through. There's impromptu dramas by the children, you know, they come up every night with the drama, just made on the spot. It's such an experience. It's such an experience. We did it a few times, and there's nothing like it. I've never found anything like it in terms of Krishna conscious experience for us and for our children. Very, very powerful. And it's basically you read about Krishna when it becomes alive because you're actually seeing those places, you know. So, and if you cannot do that because in the Kartik during October, then there's some organized tours by sannyasis. Every year, there's so many organized tours. 10-day tour, 1 week tour, so many different tours, you know. And these tours are nice because it's not so austere and everything is taken care of. You know, you sit in the bus, you go to the spots, you come back to Krishna Balaram temple every day, you know. So it's easier on the body and for the children. So you can take these organized tours once a year. Then you can go on Rath Yatras. You know, if you need places for vacation, you can go for, you know, have them participate for Rath Yatra festival. And then you can go also to theme parks and zoos on the way. That was how we did it. We would make the goal like going to Rath Yatra, you know, like 14, 15 hours away, and then along the way we stopped by in national forest or whatever, you know, hiking or whatever. So it's a nice way to spend with children. They become very, you know, it's a nice family event or with other devotees. Because the goal is to try to get to a Rath Yatra, right? So Rath Yatra festival is very good for them because even though they don't like to be devotees now, but if they're going to Rath Yatra, it's an exciting event. You're going there, then obviously they participate in pulling the cart or chanting or whatever. It kind of forces them or encourages them because you're going somewhere to participate. It's not here, but you're going somewhere, right? You're going on Braj Mandal. You're going on to India for organized tours. You know, Radhanath Swami has 10 days, other sannyasis have. It's great. Because they're completely immersed in hearing and chanting for 10 days. And it's a lot of fun. It's not just hearing, sitting down and hearing. They do like kirtan and they have prasadam, unlimited prasadam. It's interesting. Okay, I think we are done. If anybody wants these books, we got some more today, and then these will be on order. I believe they've arrived, and and so now you get all the other 4 cantos. Yeah, I believe that he got a call, so they have to, yeah. So it will happen. Should we stop or is there any question?
So, is it that we covered both days in one?
Yes.
So we finished them.
Yeah, that's why if you have any questions, it's a good time to ask. I covered tomorrow's topic today also, so we can, we can skip tomorrow.
Tomorrow, no, because we finished.
Really?
Because there's no translation, so we are like those
Because we
kids.
can.
Yeah, I had questions. I was thinking what.
Please ask any questions.
I wanted that all devotees will hear, and today also somebody that I wanted to ask. So this knowledge, like Srimad Bhagavatam, it's like home, teaching at home, so it's better to personally, like parents teaching children, or it can be also, like if we make small school, we can also like...
Very good.
But what is better? What is
more
personal?
Well, each one has got its own flavor, at home, if the children are willing to sit, it's more, it's creating that strong connection between parents and children. So that helps. So each one has got its own flavor. You can do either one or both. Because in the temple with groups, you probably do it once a week, right? So that's also very nice, very nice. It may be a good way to get them to do it. Because there's other peers, other people, other children coming. It's a nice way. You can, having a farm position like this, you can do it two or three times a week. So you can do it like 2 or 3 times a week. What did I say? Yeah, you can do it. Even in a school setting, you can do it 2 or 3 times a week because it's a community here. It's not like anybody is driving from somewhere, which makes it very difficult. So you can do a daily Bhagavatam class for children. Or you can do it once a week, right? As much as you can, whatever you can manage.
And how to connect, like, if the student not go to like normal school, like other school, but other things we also can like we can do Bhagavatam class, but how we learn other skills, or we can also maybe one parent can teach something another and just do some class. I just try to imagine how it can work if we don't go to other school at all. No, like yes, other school. Maybe you know some examples that it works. If you know some community school.
Some communities that
similar to some schools.
Yeah, homeschooling is not so popular, in Lithuania. So where would you get the examples? There's one family here, right, who's doing it. He was doing it, right? He was sitting here. Are you homeschooling? Are you homeschooling?
No, we're starting our own school, but teachers are not devotees.
Okay.
But they are very like-minded.
Where is the school?
And other city.
Oh.
Village.
They also do other community village, and the school is very close, and we meet in some school.
Oh, that's good. That's better probably than sending outside school. Yeah, that's good. teaching the standard curriculum and plus something, they are doing something practical devotional service also there? No, just, yeah. We just started a school with few devotees there, right? So, I mean, homeschooling, I mean, basically, if you read this book, you get some ideas what it means to homeschool. And then you can see how it can work. One Prabhu is doing it, he's doing it. You're doing it.
What is it?
Homeschooling.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have one family who's doing it, right? You have one family. And that one becomes two. Pretty soon. And that will help because I think your kids are also the same age practically. No.
One is same age.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
So this is how it begins. Nothing wrong with it. There's no loss. I mean, you try it for some years and then if it doesn't work, again, it's not like, right? The schools will take them back, right? If it doesn't work.
I don't want my children go to schools and just let them go to school. I don't know. But since here I'm worrying, I also because I don't know if I can work
Yeah.
and I don't know if I really want. I want to teach devotional things, but I don't do so much other things.
Oh, I see, yeah.
No, I mean like maths. I'm an artist and I can teach art. But I don't want.
Well, there are books that have explained themselves. I was using a Saxon math book, and I was not so much into teaching math, but English was more my thing, and so that book was so good that practically the child can teach himself. And we can give supervision, right? Yeah, that much is okay, right? The kids are small, all C++ and all that. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, but because from school, what I remember now, we do this thing, we give us an Italian. Irish, we do us an Italian.
When counting
And even I don't remember actually what I learned is so many years, I actually used to remember. So what use it? If you don't use practically, so what use to learn? 12 classes, 12 years to learn something. No use. History the same, what I remember? History of the world.
Try it and see. It's not that difficult. And for those who have to go to school, I mean, there's ways to keep them in Krishna consciousness. It's more challenging, but I mean, if you can homeschool, then obviously the job becomes easier because the children are not exposed. So it's not like bringing them back. They're already here. They're already in Krishna consciousness. Right? But if that's not possible, then try to do all the other things. All the extracurricular activities, the Bhagavatam, morning program. See, we gave like three things, right? Setting up your home and all that, how to make it Krishna conscious, then Bhagavatam, and then the extracurricular. It covers everything. And this was Prabhupada's formula for raising children. It's not something that I invented. This is what Prabhupada wanted us to do. So you kind of covered everything. Try to cover everything of a child's passion. And if they're going to school, then you do it accordingly. It's still there, but The ideas are still there. They can still go out and preach. They can still do that. It just doesn't become, it becomes probably less in terms of time. But
as we heard, according to local laws, homeschooling only can apply those families which like international families.
Yeah, because not living in one
Yeah, from different countries. Buvo seniau analitikui dėl to. Vieni mano įspūdį. A few years ago, alone, everyone.
are you asking a question or a comment?
Just told in the beginning that a few years ago it was not allowed to engage in homeschooling because should go to public school.
Yeah.
Only for international families.
Yeah.
But she said now, a few years ago,
Yeah.
allowed already for everyone.
Yeah.
But still, the Lithuanian homeschooling, legal homeschooling, is not that homeschooling which is in America, because schools, you still have to be attached to some school, and that school is controlling you in every respect.
Register.
Yeah.
And
you want to share? He's done some research on that.
She is.
Okay, so whoever, can you share? Please.
About homeschooling, how to do that.
The rules, what the rules?
You have to choose one school, and you basically, most important thing to choose school, because there are different schools who are more strict and more flexible. You have to do research on choosing school, because even if you homeschool, you still have to fill in some forms every 2 weeks. You have to show what you have done during that 2 weeks, and that school checks you, some schools checks you more, some more flexible. So depends on school. That twice in a year, it's mandatory to have some tests and that.
Some test.
Yes, some. No, what you learn.
You share
What you learn.
What you learn, like from some subjects. Depends on school. It can do some project, for example. And you do, for example, 6 months, some project about animals, and you just use video skills, for example, you show some slideshows. You do it in 6 months for people. But other schools, they are more strict, so they give more resources. So that is it's a question you can do. You just have to do more research and find a way. It's not like everything very strict.
I mean, it doesn't look very difficult in terms of even satisfying them, right? These flexible schools.
Yes, it's possible. For example, you can be out of a family and you still can do homeschooling at some schools, but other schools they don't. You have to make sure.
No, but here we're talking about being here and homeschooling, right?
Yeah.
So that's not difficult.
And with time, these regulations get better and better. Now it's only recently they allow, so they don't have proper framework. It takes time to establish this.
Actually, maybe COVID helped because all of the kids were studying for almost a year, I think. Everybody was studying from school, so they understood that that actually works.
From home.
From home, yes. So that maybe even helped to develop that in the beginning. There's always something good in bad things.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea for doing it to homeschool. I mean, later on they may get restless and they say, okay, you denied me this and that. But the point is, if you do it right, I don't think they'll feel like that. If you expose them, like I was talking about, right? Exposing them to the outside world, making them feel like they're not just shut in. There's so much to do, so much going for them, Yeah, and they are in Lithuania. They will be connected to a school. like we're talking about, right? There's no attendance required, right? But at least they're connected to a school and they are giving exams, so it's not like the parents won't have to worry so much.
Twice in a year.
Yeah. Twice in a year.
And I guess if you're teaching them privately, then they will understand everything even better.
Yeah.
As long as you can teach
Well, the
them.
main thing is escaping that value system, the good values that they learn from environment, emotional environment versus what they learn outside. That's the biggest trouble. And the amount of time that's spent in school, 8 hours a day. So you've given them the best quality time for the children. They're most sharp at that time when you're sending them to school. And they're getting the best time. You see, you've given to them, and most of it, what they learn is, it's just so much bad values and also some subjects, some information, but that can be done at home. You can do it at home.
In this way, we have enough social life.
In a community like this, you will.
Yes.
You don't have that problem that we faced, that we had to deal with. That is taken care of. It's more, in a homeschooling environment, they learn to interact with kids of all ages. Otherwise, they are shut in with kids of the same age. And Prabhupada said it's like fools learning from fools. He said that. And it never used to be like that, Children interacted with children older than them, younger than them, and adults. There was a lot of adult interaction. Now they don't even see it. Like they don't even deal with adults. They're going to school and they come home, they have their friends and they have their life, their own species. They're their own species, right? They don't relate with adults. They don't learn responsibilities. That's the repercussion of school life right now, unless we are aware of what's happening. Homeschooling is such a more healthy environment. We need to do it right, that's all.
Maybe last question.
Yeah.
So from the perspective of a person like yourself, maybe you can give some advice that when you're younger, you don't have children, or whatever age you are, before you have children, you have all your interesting things that you want to do. And the older you get, for example, I'm almost 40, I haven't had kids. I want to have them and I will have them, but I have so many things that I do during the day, and I know for sure that when kids will come into my life, if I apply all of these rules and everything, I will lose myself, what I was, what I like to do, painting, singing. I'm really creative, so I do a lot of things. And I can understand, of course, I can do that with children, but what if I earn money with that? So that will be just cut off, and I will just become a mother who dedicates everything to children. From one point, yes, that is how it's supposed to be, otherwise why would you have children? But that ego inside, it's always grinding like, I want to do my thing. And like I've heard it from mothers.
Once you have the children, it just changes. You feel like that before you have children, and before you get married. Once you get married, once you have children, it just changes. You will want to do things with them and for them. Some of that feeling will be there, oh, what about me? But then, you can still do it to some extent. Motherhood is a sacrifice. And being in that whole family life is a sacrifice. But then through family life, Krishna is teaching us, he's taking away our pride, our false ego. It's a way of purification, And it's not like we all had to go through. It's not like I'm talking about you. I mean, every one of us. I realized how much I changed. I was just like I was also like this. I was very independent. Believe it or not, growing up in India, but I was very independent, and I had my own ideas and my own ambitions. But somehow or the other, when you have children, it changes. The heart becomes softer. You start learning,
I can hear the nervous laughing of moms, so I don't believe that.
Huh?
I can hear the nervous laughs of mothers here, realized mothers of 3 or 4 children, and they like laughing.
Oh yeah, the struggles are there.
We're accepting that's true. That's
Yeah.
my love.
5 years you will forget it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea is not to want to come back to this world again. So yeah, it's nice, but still it's the last thing. Last time you want to do this, right? It is a struggle. Material life is a struggle. But there's no meaning, Prabhupada said, of married life without children. Unless you cannot have one. You do medical things. Family life means children. Yeah.
Maybe it's like everyone grows and becomes adult in the course of time. Like
Yeah.
if we're not growing, it may be something wrong.
So basically, you have to learn to do your favorite things, but with children now.
Yeah, with children. Yeah.
Whatever the skill that is.
Somehow Krishna will do it even better. Like you see that you're, doing things that you never imagined you were going to do, and you're still being able to, be happy and be recognized in your area. Like all these feelings, we all have it. There's nothing, it's nothing to hide. It's just, and then we all have it, and somehow Krishna will arrange. I had all these feelings. But look at what, for me, Krishna did so much more.
It becomes deeper, I guess.
Yeah, it becomes deeper. I never imagined I was going to be traveling and, preaching. I never thought like that. Krishna opened the doors for me. You see? Why? Because he becomes happy when we do that sacrifice and we, please him by raising good children, devotee children. He becomes so pleased with that. You think he doesn't understand what a sacrifice it is? He totally knows everything. And he's recognizing and appreciating and accepting everything that you're doing. Every nappy you're changing, everything you're doing. Maybe the spouses may not realize it or something like that. But he's seeing the sacrifice. Especially when you're trying to make them as devotees, it becomes devotion. So it's everything that we do for them. After a time, otherwise, it becomes, it becomes all about me and all that. And it's good, but ultimately, one will need emotionally, women need that somehow. There comes a time when you don't need it now, but there comes a time 10 years from now when you're just going to miss that part in your life. You see? This is my general feeling, but it can be always exceptions, It doesn't have to be like that. But
it was just nice to hear that, from mothers, I usually hear you're going to just lose yourself, and you're going to just forget about everything that you were before, and that's it. But now it was nice to hear that there's something deeper, so it's going to be a huge transformation to someone. So I will lose my old myself, but I will find a new myself, and it's going to be much better in terms of Krishna consciousness and
much richer.
character qualities and all that.
Yes.
Which is good, yeah.
We learn so many good character qualities just raising our children. Patience, tolerance, name it, right? Everything we learn. And it's just even the struggles that we may face within family life is helping us grow and advance spiritually. Because we have to go through it. We have to go through it, and might as well go through it and come out and say, okay, this is it.
And how to serve someone without expecting anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to see our children as servants of Krishna and not have any expectation. I'm doing my duty, and whatever Krishna needs. Because if you do your duty nicely, he's going to take care of you. Whether the kids take care of you or not, he's going to take care of you.
I also sometimes think, there will be nice school or kindergarten, then I can have free time with this child. And I'm free, But we don't have here, we go to school, and this is also thing that not easy. Because you have to put more time, more endeavor, more devotion by doing this. But of course, it's the same way that you need to cook. You can just go and buy in March myself. But everything needs more endeavor and devotion.
Not because you have to cook so much. It's not, you think, Karmis can just go and buy and stuff. It's easy, right? In America, every block is McDonald's. It's like, yeah, but then, what is it? So this is the
So
sacrifice.
you do more, you sacrifice more, but then you get the best fruit.
Yes.
It's the same with children, you sacrifice so much and you get such good results which are beneficial for yourself.
And for the humanity of future.
Yes.
And for the whole humanity of future.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because these children, when they grow up, and they're going to be, such special souls, they're going to affect a lot of people. We forget about that part, They're going to affect a lot of people in their lives through their own example.
First, if you are in Mayapur, if you have money to live in Mayapur, then yes, children have best education, and you can also go to study Srimad Bhagavatam. This is like also very nice.
Yeah, some people do that. Some families, they move to Mayapur to get the benefit of the holy Ram. So you can do that. Yeah, I know one family in the Konas is doing that. His family is in Mayapur. But he happened to be here, so he attended the seminar. But and he's doing different things. Yeah.
Who live there?
Yeah, but they are from Konas. It's I don't know his name, but he's the son-in-law of Yadvi.
Prajananda.
Yes.
Yes, she's now in coma because she has a second baby and she's very
But who's going to be here? Everybody goes,
So
right?
the question, what is better or what Krishna wants?
Yes.
Because I also can go to sit with books with child if you want, if you're homeschooling like this. But
I mean, over here, because you have a community, you can make a homeschooling co-op. Like, you can do homeschooling, but it's more like a school. But not an official school.
Yes.
It's still homeschooling, but then you can meet every day. Different parents teach different things. You can do this easily here because of farm community, because it's a community here.
Yes. I guess if everybody chooses homeschooling, officially we are homeschooling, but we come together a few times a week or every day whenever necessary, and all moms come together and teach the same thing to kids. It's
And they do, they teach
even
Bhagavatam
teachers
together.
for that, but it's like homeschooling. But it's a mix of a school, like
my suggestion would be not to dream like this, but start a school of your own and take money from the government and give those mothers pay so that they will surely come.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the government gives money for this.
We were talking maybe 10 years ago about this in New Govardhan school or something, but nothing is happening because people have their own lives. But if it's a job, then it's gonna definitely happen. So it's better to start.
So the kids in this kind of school, they're still protected and have values and all that, right? Even though
recognized by the government.
Yeah,
but then the school has
Vaishnava school.
It's a Vaishnava school.
And government gives money and we distribute that money to mothers who's coming.
Who's teaching?
Because you participated to give some report for government.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That Mataji, she comes from another community in Kenya. I think they already have that school officially open there. We are still thinking, they're already realizing it in practice.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of advice for us.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you
We are
start?
kind of working on that. We have some more active Matajis, but obviously some of the smaller children. It's not yet happening, but it's moving that way. So good advice will be always.
Yeah. You can work on that over here, right? Yeah. If there's officially a school with payment and with salary and all that, then and then you follow the curriculum. Yeah. And then do you do any devotional things in the school at all? You do? Or you cannot do?
No, we're not doing what we can do. We're doing meditation, like sort of not specifically Vaishnava.
Why you're not allowed to do that?
We can, but we are not.
Because there's kids from non-devotee families. Very much like Krishna Vanti school. Yeah.
But you have to have some paper that you can be teacher and get money, like education, kaip čia tas vadinasi, pedagoginis.
I mean, I also the concept that you are doing, I don't see why it cannot work. Like individual homeschooling families, it should really work. I mean, and then coming together, for whichever things you want to come together with. That also will work. Homeschooling individually, and then coming together, having an association as homeschoolers. I think that's a great idea for this community. Because then you can teach them devotional things during the day. I mean, this is also a good concept in the sense that devotees are there. Devotees are running it. But if you want, like a morning program or some tulsiyasi or whatever, you have at least that option to do it if you have a homeschooling co-op. Teaching Bhagavatam or whatever together, that opportunity is there if you have something like this going. And he's doing it, so everybody can do it, get it, and he has the name of that school, which is very flexible. It's not so strict, right? So I really like that idea. Because then you have the option. Maybe there's more responsibility to the parent, obviously. You're not giving that responsibility to somebody else. That's the thing. Like in a school like hers, you can just send them.
I don't have money, but maybe this is important.
Yeah, it is. It is. Obviously, the results are different. They're better. The results are better. If you do it right, the results are better. Okay? Anything else?